Hey there, second, third, fourth, and fifth graders, we now have some watercolor paints. And so before we really get into it, I need to make sure you understand what my expectations are of these paint palettes. You're only going to use them right now when I ask you to, so please don't dig into your envelopes and just go crazy. I want to teach you how to use these paint palettes, how to keep them in good condition so that they're available for the art projects I have planned. So watch along here and I'll show you exactly what I expect. All right, we're going to do a little introduction of the paintbrush because this is really the most important tool you have when you're going to be coloring with these watercolor paints. So the first thing I want to point out are the different parts of the paintbrush. First we have the handle, obviously, where we use our hand. The other end, we've got our bristles. The bristles are the delicate part, and if we don't take care of the bristles, the paintbrush won't last very long. This other middle section is actually called the ferrule, but we like to call it the danger zone. If you can try and keep your fingers above the danger zone and keep the paint below the danger zone. One of the things that you need to remember is that with the paintbrush, you want to be painting with the tip. If you start to grind and we call it the booty scooch around, you're going to break down those bristles. You'll get paint so deep into there that it's really hard to get out. So when you paint, we need to practice the lightest touch. The younger grades, we talk about it being a ballerina and staying on its toes and doing kind of that ballet dance on the tippy toes. And so when you practice your brush strokes, keep your hand nice and light. I'm going to practice on some of these lines and designs that I've got here and just practice that stroke going back and forth. Try to keep, notice how the handle is straight up and down. I'm not doing this. That's going to drag your hand across the paper. Also, it's going to get paint up into that ferrule, that danger zone. But if you stay on the tip, then you're going to be able to control the paint and where it goes. And practice each one of these nice and light. If you are scooching that bristle right around like that, you're going to break it down. We call that booty scooching, and there's no booty scooching in painting. So practicing on your paintbrush practice page, that's a lot of P's. Nice and light. When you find that you're pressing too much, lift your elbow off the table. Practice that until you feel like you've got control of the line and the tip of the brush. And those little dots, nice and light and easy, filling in. Maybe a spiral, you have to stay very light on your tiptoes. And a pinwheel from the center going out. These are some great practices just to get the feel of the brush so you're not grabbing onto it so tight. Nice and soft hand, light brush. The next step after getting your brush and your brush hand all warmed up is to make sure you're prepared to paint. As I give all of you students a paint palette of watercolors, I need to make sure that you understand how to use them, how to keep them clean and in good shape, and keep your brush in good working order. So now we need to look at what do you need? We need our paints, check. You need your brush, and then you'll need some sort of paper. I will grab this. When we're in the classroom, a lot of the times I will use watercolor paint paper. It's harder, it's thicker, it'll hold the water on top for a while before it dries. The paper that I've got right now, the paper that you've got right now is really thin. The water will absorb pretty quickly, but we can still do some nice projects on it. You need to come up with some sort of messy mat. I'm using the back of a cardboard pizza box. The cardboard is good because it can get wet and dry. It does tend to crinkle up a little bit as it dries. So come up with something you can put behind to protect the surface of what you're working on. Having some sort of paper towel or napkin. If you don't have those, use a small piece of paper. But to have something to wipe off your brush in between that stroke that goes back and forth and absorbs color and absorbs water. You need that nearby. We also need clean water. If we're going to be using watercolor paints, I need to be able to wake these paints up with some clean water. I can do that with just a couple drops of water in each color before I get started. But once I touch my brush to that color, now I've got color on the brush. And if I go back into the clean water, it's no longer clean. So I like to have a second water to clean the brush itself. And then I can dab it on the side if I need to get that water off of there or extra color. So as we wake up our paints, let me move it in here. You add some water to the color tray and then just lightly circle and wake that paint up. Watercolor paints dry really nicely, but you can reactivate them with just a little bit of water. And now I've got quite a bit of paint on my paintbrush. And as I have a lot of paint, it's going to be dark. And as I move down the row, now this one, because I don't want a small line, I'm leaning it to get a wider line. And as I go further away, or maybe add a little bit of water to it, it's going to get a little lighter and a little lighter. And so when I say I want to use a pink, what I really want is a very, very light, very watered down red. And I can get that value from dark to light just by adding more and more water as I go. Now, I don't want to take my red and go to yellow right away. If I've got a lot of paint, I can go ahead and wipe it off here, then go to my cleaning solution. I don't know if you can see my cleaning solution over here. I've got two of them. I use an old mushroom tub and just recycle and reuse from my kitchen. That's what I do. And then I'm going to dab it off on the side here. Yep, no more color left on my brush. Notice how I'm not scraping it or scratching it hard. And now I'm going to use clean water and wake up my yellow. A few drops and then a little tickle in. Tickle, tickle, tickle. That's not a fun way to wake up. I would get mad if somebody tickled me awake. And then you can very lightly, using the tip of your paintbrush, create some pretty cool effects and brush strokes. Now, I don't have a lot of water in this paint. This is a pretty dark paint. So if I wanted to make it a lighter yellow on the inside, maybe go to my dirty water or my wash water and just add some in here and I'll lighten it up. Using just the tiptoe like that ballerina. Painting takes detailed time. We've got to be patient and use just calm, patient effort. Don't be afraid to take a long time. Let it dry and come back with a different color. And that's one's going to be dark because I went straight to the paint. All right, and there you go. Now to clean up, you can just let the water dry. Keep it away from little brothers and sisters. We don't want their fingers in it. Make sure you clean your brush really well. Dry it off as best you can. Maybe pinch a little water out, but don't rub and scrub. We don't want to pull the bristles out. And then put your brush back. And as soon as these dry, you can put them back in your art envelope. But for now, I'm just going to let it sit out and let the air dry it before I turn it on its side. And remember, everything goes back into the art envelope until I ask you to use it again. And that is how you do your paints in the art package.